What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we are going to be looking at another random magic card. So I'm going to go ahead and click that random card button. Okay, we got a good one. Oh, Imogen, you are going to need to get out of my way. That's one thing. When my current setup, the way that I have my desk and whatnot, when you see Imogen getting up in my face, he's usually blocking my monitor. So if at any point you see me do any awkward looks, around whether on these videos, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, if you're listening in audio, thank you so much for being here. These are available on YouTube as well, complete with video. And you can see my cute cat who loves getting up in my face and messing up my shoots. Also, you can see Imogen, my cat, or myself and my lovely face on Twitch, twitch.tv/hamhawks42. All right, cool. So anyway, the card that we're looking at today is Innocent Blood. This card is great. It's very simple, it's very efficient, it does what it does, and it does it very well. And this is an example of what I want to talk about with this card is value. That's a word that you hear thrown around a lot. And it really depends. And so you might be wondering, well, okay, when I hear someone say, oh, this is a good value, or man, I'm getting so much value out of this, what exactly do they mean? I mean, we all understand the idea, like, okay, if I can get a $50 pair of shoes for $30, or $90 for 50, or whatever your price point is, whatever you believe is reasonable for shoes. But you're like, okay, that's a good value. I've gotten a sale, I've gotten a deal. I know that that's a good value. Now, in Magic, value comes in a couple of different ways, and ultimately, what it comes down to is the board state improved in my favor, and how much mana did I have to spend for the impact I received? So if you have to spend very little mana and you can have a very large impact on the game, you've got great value. Because at the end of the day, what are the dollars that we're spending in Magic? It's our mana. Generally, we can also leverage our life total. We can also leverage creatures. I mean, we can pay in a lot of different ways. But in general, when we're talking about payments, 90% of the time we are referring to mana. So if at a very low mana cost, you can get an effect that brings you much closer to winning the game or tilts the current state of the game in your favor, you are getting good value. Innocent Blood is a sorcery that was originally printed back in Odyssey. This particular version that we're looking at is from Explorers of Ixalan. Oh, sweet, I didn't realize that got reprinted in the Ixalan block. That rules. Anyway, so it's from Explorers of Ixalan. It is a sorcery for 1 black mana. Also note, this was a common, which is just great. I love this card. It's so good. 1 black mana. Each player sacrifices a creature. Now, I love that too because on its surface, it looks like, oh, this hits everyone. This hurts everyone. So, all right, so it's kind of fair. Like I have to pay one and one of my creatures. So, all right. However, you pick what deck this goes in, and so you can pick a deck that is going to benefit from this effect. Like I'll tell you right now, actually, I have a deck in Standard that would absolutely adore this card. In fact, I'm actually tempted to make it a historic just so I can throw it in. Um, which is actually is Explorers of Ixalan in historic? Anyway, I'll look that up. Don't worry about it. um, but what Innocent Blood does is each player has to sacrifice a creature. So, but more importantly, who likes sacrificing creatures? Um, well, there are a lot of black decks that aristocrat style decks that love sacrificing creatures. Like sacrificing creatures turns on their engine, being able to sacrifice certain creatures that have like enter the battlefield triggers, put them into the graveyard so you can reanimate them and get those triggers again, or being able to sacrifice a problematic creature that has some kind of downside that you want to get rid of, or sacrificing a creature because when you have effects where when you sacrifice creatures, cool things happen, or when creatures die, cool things happen. If you have a grave pact down, every time you sacrifice a creature, all of your opponents have to sacrifice a creature too. And so with Innocent Blood down, well, they have to sacrifice a creature to satisfy Innocent Blood, and now they have to sacrifice a creature to satisfy Grave Pact because you sacrificed one of your creatures to Innocent Blood. Like the synergies that you can get off of it, and like that is a phenomenal value where you have to sacrifice one creature and your opponents have to sacrifice two. Like in essence, you got to sacrifice a creature. Like I don't know if you've noticed, but there are a lot of black decks out there that become infinitely more powerful the moment they have a card down that allows them to sacrifice a creature. If you're wondering the phenomenon that I'm talking about, go look at the stock price for Viscera Seer right now. It is a 1/1 vampire for 1, and it was a common. So the world is full of these, by the way. Just throwing that out there. It's like $2 because it has the ability on it for 1 mana, sacrifice a creature, scry 1. You get to sacrifice a creature and help, smooth out your next draw. That is phenomenal. If there was an artifact that cost 1, if there's an artifact that costs 1 generic and it just said you may sacrifice a creature, that's it with no upside. There are decks I would run that in because that is how good sacrificing creatures can be if your deck wants to sacrifice creatures. Because you can't just choose to sacrifice a creature willy-nilly. You have to have a reason to do it. Um, which is funny because when you think sacrificing, you're giving something up, you're choosing to do it. But in fact, in Magic, you can't just choose to sacrifice a creature. You have to have an effect to do it. And so finding a sacrifice outlet, a sack engine, as they are often known, is very important. And so what Instant Blood does is it removes one of your opponent's creatures, or actually all of your, one creature off of every one of your opponent's boards, and you have to sacrifice a creature, or more accurately, in the right deck that's probably going to be running this, you get to sacrifice one creature because you're going to choose what dies. You're going to get cool effects with it. Like you love it. You love that. Who doesn't love that? Yeah, in general, Innocent Blood is absolutely phenomenal. It only costs 1. And I mean, think about it. When you think about a board state value, now if you have an opponent who is running a token deck and they have 15 warrior tokens off a Najila, or they have like 15 insect tokens off a Locust God, all right, this is going to have a negligible impact on them because they get to pick what the thing is that they get to sacrifice. So in that situation, for 1 mana, you're not getting a very good value because you've just killed one of their bugs and you sacrifice something, so that's neat. The other thing is if you don't have any creatures down, this only hits your opponents. That's pretty cool too. Just throwing it out there. So actually, yeah, in a deck that's running very, very few creatures, actually you probably wouldn't want this in that situation unless you had truly no creatures or your board state is somehow better for having no creatures. Those decks exist, and that would definitely take advantage of this because then all of a sudden there's no downside to you, and all your opponents now have this thorn they have to deal with that only costs you 1 mana. You're gonna have one extra mana somewhere to shake things up a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. So yeah, if your opponent is going wide, it's not very good. But the other thing about that is, think about this. If your opponent has Progenitus, the what is it, 12/12 trample with protection from everything, or no, I don't think it has trample, but anyway, it has like straight up protection from everything. So removing Progenitus is incredibly hard. Like board wipes generally do it as long as they're board wipes that straight up kill or exile. If you're dealing with board wipes that deal damage, that's not gonna do anything. Or if you're dealing with board wipes that go like negative X, unless that number is very, very high, that's really not going to affect Progenitus either. So those are all effects that aren't very useful. But keep this in mind. Your opponent, you could be going like against one opponent. They could be doing a Voltron style strategy or a Bogle style strategy, or they could have a Progenitus that has protection from absolutely everything, and they could even have hexproof on themselves. They could have like an Ivory Mask or um, what is it, Teo, the shield mage from War of the Spark, that gives the player hexproof, or there's a ley line that does the same thing. You could do all, like you could have those even, and this card doesn't care because you don't target the player. It's each opponent sacrifices a creature. Protections, hexproof, none of that matters with this card. So if your opponent only has one creature, and that creature is a really big creature that was going to mess up your day, you get to knock it out for 1. Worst case scenario, it's 1 and you have to sacrifice a creature that you would have rather kept. Oh well. So in those situations, this is a phenomenal value. And so that's one of those things. The floor on this card is you get to sacrifice one of your creatures for 1 black. That's actually not bad. In a lot of decks, that's useful. The ceiling on this card is through the frickin' roof. The things that you can do when the situation is right, generally speaking, if your opponent only has one creature. But then again, even if your opponent has 2 or 3 creatures that are all threats that you need to deal with, Innocent Blood makes them pick one and kill it. That could help very much. Like this card can help you swing a game in your favor and really modify the board state in a pretty dramatic way for only 1 black. So that is an excellent value. All right, let's talk flavor. So we've got zombies carrying zombies with torches. Okay, kind of weird, but whatever. Or no, zombies carrying a dead body. Maybe perhaps that was a living person. And zombies mourn for the living and celebrate those who will soon be given the gift of death. Ah, okay, interesting. So these are zombies that are clearly taking a person, a human who is either near death or recently dead, and they're going to be raising it up. All right, rock on. I can appreciate that. Perhaps taking it to their necromantic liege, whatever that looks like. Anyway, this has been super cool, guys. Innocent Blood. This is a great card. I absolutely adore it. There's a ton of cool stuff you can do with it. It's generally just good. It's really, really good in the right context. Because in the right context, you can get phenomenal value. So thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you guys. You all. Oh, before I sign off, I just got another little moment of inspiration. You can actually use Innocent Blend in combination with some of those other board wipes that we talked about. So if you have like a Storm's Wrath that can hit all things, for 4, or if you have like a Cry of the Cranarium that can tick down those token decks, you can use one of those other board wipes that would wipe the majority of the tokens and then throw Innocent Blood because you could presumably remove the chaff with the board wipe and cut down to just the valuable pieces, or at least the physically large pieces on your opponent's board, and then use innocent blood to make him sacrifice one of them. That's kind of cool. That is a synergy that I would definitely recommend checking out. Anyway, so this has been Innocent Blood. Thank you so much. For real this time, I think. You have a wonderful day. I will catch you next time.